Hey guys, this is Chris from AndroidPIT.com. Today we've got a walkthrough of Android 5.0 Lollipop coming soon officially from Google. Okay Google, go to AndroidPIT.com. Now, some of you may have seen our previous videos on the Android L developer preview. This is obviously moved along quite a lot, but a lot of what you'll see here is really just a more finished and polished version of what we've already seen, along with a few extra things. So straight up here we are looking at the lock screen on Android 5.0. So as you can see, like we had before, we have our notifications direct on the lock screen. So as you can also see, they do this nice little parallax effect as you unlock with a swipe up. So the cards will stack behind each other. So you can see we've sent some stuff with Android Beam, we've done some downloading, we have a message from Tony here as well. You can also see that the clock here drifts into the background as you swipe up as well. Now you'll also see we have a shortcut to the dialer in the bottom left hand corner and a shortcut to the camera app as well. We'll get to those in just a minute. Now, if we had larger notifications, swiping down will actually expand them into full mode where you can then deal with them. You can obviously swipe to dismiss these as well, or swipe to get rid of all of them. Swiping down again will bring you to your quick settings. So these are a little bit different to what we saw in the L preview, but we have some nice previews of the brightness where everything else drops away and just lets you focus on the brightness. We've got a few animations that we've already seen as well, with the auto rotate, and obviously you can turn things like Bluetooth on and off, and if you want to access the settings menu, you just hit the word underneath to go straight to the settings options for that setting. Now you'll see at the top here also we have a shortcut to the settings menu direct. We've got a battery notification and we've also got our little profile button. So this didn't work on our Android L developer preview, but it's working now. So you can see we're logged in as Android, and we also have me logged in as well. So if you want to and nothing is security locked, you can quickly and easily switch users straight from the lock screen, which is pretty cool. So same thing, if you want to switch back over, and obviously if either of those accounts are secured with a screen lock or a pattern or anything, then you just need to use that to access the device further. Now, one thing you will notice is when you're on the lock screen, you already have your notifications up, and one swipe will bring you your quick settings. The reason for that is the lock screen actually is your notification screen. That's why you can answer messages and deal with your notifications directly without having to actually launch any other apps. Let's take a quick look at the camera app. So don't go from the bottom corner, you have to go a little bit in from the side. So this is pretty similar to the stock Google camera that we've got in the Play Store, but there's a few minor changes. Now when you switch between your settings, you've got nice little buttons that color differently depending on which mode you're in, and of course directions as well. And I'll just go through the whole list there. Camera and video, of course, but let's go back to camera. Now, we've got our list here. HDR mode. Apparently a few people are having problems with HDR with it crashing. I'm not having any problems with HDR. Seems to be working. You'll also see you get the little animation when you take the photo as well. But HDR seems to be working for us, so I'm happy. You've also got your grid overlay, of course. There we go, grid, and a few timer options as well. We've also got a new little icon for switching from the front to the back-facing camera. I don't know how exciting that is. Maybe that's the Nexus 6 next year, Nexus 7.5, 6.5, whatever. And of course our flash controls as well. So let's back out of that. Now this is the Android 5.0 home screen. So we've got a different wallpaper than what we saw previously, which is nice because I think everyone was probably a little bit used to that already. You can see we've got our new navigation bars at the bottom, which are probably pretty familiar by now, and we've got a few new apps. Of course, some things like the messaging app and the browser are the AOSP standards. We don't have all of the full material design themed Google apps on the this sort of latest preview. But again, one swipe down from the top will bring you your notifications, which again you can deal with or swipe away, and two swipes will shortcut you to your quick settings, just as we had previously on the lock screen. And again, you can see the stacking of the cards. So everything in Android 5.0 is kind of taking after Google Now a little bit. There's a little bit of the card thing going on. Everything is super flat. And of course, Google Now is right here as well. You can access it as always with a swipe up from the bottom, or you can swipe it in from the side. One thing I wanted to point out to you quickly, if you take a look at the Google search bar, you can see the little hamburger menu pop out as you slide open Google Now. There's a couple of nice little details like that in 5.0 that we really like, and we're really looking forward to seeing the absolute final version when it rolls out soon, just to see how detailed those get. So that's Google Now. Let's take a look at a couple of the apps. So we have a new Contacts app. There's not much to it. We've just got all of our contacts here. You can swipe across to your favorites, of course, and that's really all there is to it. If you want to add another person, it's all looking pretty familiar. So let's go back to the home screen. The dialer is a little bit different again. The sort of teal color, I guess, the sort of aquamarine color has kind of gone and been replaced by a slightly darker one. But again, we've got our contacts duplicated here, so you can totally skip the Contacts app if you would prefer to access your contacts through the dialer. We've got our recent call list and of course speed dial. So the dialer pop-up, you can actually see some of the animations here again around the buttons. And if you back out, basically Android 5.0 wants to let you know what's going to happen, what the back arrow means when you use it. So if you back out, you'll either know if it's going to save the changes that you've made or if nothing's going to happen. So you can see we're prompted to add this phone number to our contacts, so we know that nothing's going to happen if we go back, and nothing does, so it hasn't saved anything. So basically it's to save you having to back out and then realize you've not saved something and go back in and do it again, which is kind of a nice touch. And obviously you can search for whatever you need to search for straight from the dialer, which we've already seen. So you can get previews from Google Now as well. You can also see the new keyboard as well, which is a little bit different. After the old keyboard was sort of leaked and then released under a different name and then pulled and re-released on Amazon, so Google's done a little bit of a change on the interface of that as well. Okay, let's go back and have a look at some other things. The Play Store is a good place to have a look, as is obviously the new Play Store, and you can see another nice little animation with the hamburger menu. If you can take a look there, when you slide in, the hamburger menu turns into a back arrow. You'll also notice that now we have the same navigation drawer on every Google app, which I really like. It's nice to see a lot more consistency. So let's go back to the Play Store. You can also see when you're in the Play Store the new adaptive palettes that you'll get. So you'll see the system bar change colors depending on which section of the Play Store you are in, which I obviously like as well. And so we're not quite sure just how many apps will be taking advantage of that, but obviously we can expect it from pretty much all of the Google apps. All right, so now let's move on. Let's take a quick look at the Recents button, the square. So as we've already seen, we've got this sort of card stack Rolodex kind of effect going. At first I didn't know how much I liked it, but over the last couple of months I've kind of gotten used to it, and I actually really like it. I think it's kind of cool. It is a little tricky to differentiate between the actual cards depending on what the banner colors are at the top. Once you get used to it, it's actually not too bad. And of course you can access, swipe away, whatever you like. And it's a pretty quick and easy way to multitask, and I'm a bit of a fan. Okay, so one other thing we can do is take a look at the app drawer. Now the app drawer is kind of weird now. If you tap here, I don't know if I got out of the way fast enough, you'll see we don't really go into what we used to think of the app drawer. We kind of get like a card. It's almost like a folder in existing versions of KitKat. So if we close out, you can see the animation a little bit better as it drops back into the button there. Okay, so as I said, we don't have all of the new apps on the Android 5.0 sort of almost final preview, but there is one that we haven't seen before, which is the clock. Not much going on, but when it's dark, the color will actually drop out and fade to a darker blue, depending on what time of day it is. So of course we've got our alarms, we've got our world clock, our stopwatch, and of course a timer as well. The email app was working yesterday, now it's not working today, but the downloads has also gotten a little bit of a makeover, although there's not really much to be said about it. Other things like the calendar are just the same as we saw previously, and Google Photos is strangely being replaced by Gallery again, although we're sure in the final version it will be back to being Photos. Now you can also take a look at the Google settings. We've got a few different Google settings going on in here as well. You can see we now have a section for Google Fit. Of course, we don't have any connected Google Fit devices yet, but we'll be seeing more and more of that in the weeks and months to come. We've also got a section for drive-enabled apps, which again, we don't have any, of course, but when we pick up our Android Auto, we'll be away. Now, search and now, we've got some interesting options here too. So in the voice section, if we go into OK Google, we can see, thanks Google, whoops, at least we know that, at least we know that that works. Okay, where was I? Google settings. Okay, so we've got the hot word detection from any Google search app, which is great, but you can also now do it from any screen. You also have the option to launch the hot word from a locked or a secured home screen, a lock screen, sorry. So that's kind of cool as well. And we'll demo that in just a little bit. Now let's have a quick look at our notifications as well. That all looks pretty standard. Let's take a look at our normal settings. So here we have the settings menu looking pretty much like what we had seen in the developer preview, a few minor changes. But again, we've got everything separated into these little sort of card sections as well. Now, if we take a look at display, we'll see that we have an adaptive brightness setting. That's actually just really auto brightness, so nothing to be excited about, although apparently the Nexus 6 and any other device that has the hardware to support it will have an ambient mode, the kind of thing we've seen on the Moto X, the new version, where if you reach for your phone or pick it up, the screen will actually turn on. So we're looking forward to that as well. That's going to be kind of cool. And of course, screencasting. Now, what else do we have? Sound notifications, we've got our volume settings there. We've now got a section for interruptions. So basically you can set the kind of notifications that you want to be interrupted for and the things that you don't. And then obviously just set the downtime. The time is that you only want to be interrupted by those priority notifications and the rest of the time be left alone. That's about it to see in there. Let's have a look at the battery section. So it's a slightly different looking battery section, but what we want to see is up here in the battery saver. So as we've known for a while, Android is now coming with a built-in battery saving mode. It'll basically do what every other power saving mode does, limit a little bit of functionality, drop out a few of your higher performance demands, and basically get you a little bit more out of your battery life. For some strange reason, when we turn it on, we get orange status and nav bars. Not really sure why, but there you have it. I have to say, some of my colleagues had a few bugs going on in this almost final preview. I have to say I haven't had really too many problems. I've been pretty impressed. It's been pretty stable, and I've actually had to go hunting for the bugs. If we jump into the apps and go to the running one, we now actually have a RAM summary up the top, which I kind of like as well. It's kind of a nice, quick and easy way to see which of your batteries which of your apps are actually consuming the most RAM. And obviously in cooperation with the battery section, you can obviously make some judgments about whether an app is worthwhile in terms of processor consumption, RAM usage, battery usage, and so on. So let's take a look at the new security section as well. Obviously we've still got options for encryption, and we'll get further into encryption in Android 5.0 on the site in the weeks to come. We've obviously got our usual section for screen locks, which we'll also deal with a little bit more because we also now have this smart lock section. So you may remember at Google I/O they talked about having trusted devices. So you can basically have your device unlocked if you're at home connected to a particular Wi-Fi network, you have your smartwatch in close proximity to your phone, that kind of thing. So if we're in screen lock, let's set up a pattern. Something really technical no one will ever figure out. So once we've set up a screen lock, we'll also be prompted to let the system know how much detail we want in our notifications on our lock screen. So of course you can either completely abandon any notifications in case you don't like people looking at anything, you can hide the full details, or you can just have the basic notifications. So let's go with all notification content. So now we've got the smart lock section enabled down here, so we just have to confirm our pattern, and then we have, as I said, our sections for trusted devices, which can be a wearable, a Wi-Fi network, anything like that, as well as a trusted face, which you can only assume is going to be your own. So again, this is kind of like face unlock, not particularly secure. I wouldn't really recommend it, but it's kind of like Samsung's sort of stuff where your phone will stay on if your face is detected. I think I'd go more with my smartwatches, keeping my phone unlocked, but that's up to you. It's nice to know it's there. We'll get further into encryption in the weeks to come. As I said, we have all the other fairly standard stuff. Down the bottom here, we've got screen pinning. So I'll let you have a quick read of that. But basically, screen pinning will let you do just that. It'll allow you to permanently pin one of your screens or apps to your device. So as you can see, if we go into our settings menu, we can then pin a particular app to the screen. So you hit the icon, you can have a quick read of that. It will basically just then remain there until you get rid of it. Now, if you want to remove it, you just have to press the back and recents button at the same time to unpin the screen. I'm not entirely sure what that will be useful for now, but I'm sure Google will give us a little bit of a heads up in the weeks to come. Now, what else do we have? There's not too much else in here that's really worth mentioning, although about phone. So of course we have the Android 5.0 version now replacing the L, and of course our Easter egg that I'm sure you've all seen by now. It's not working all the way. There we go, we have our Lollipop Easter egg, which you can change the color of just by tapping. I don't know how long you would do this before you got completely bored, but if you press and hold, you then get this, which may seem like a video test or something not tremendously interesting until you tap the screen, and then it becomes an awful version of Flappy Bird, which I'm not particularly good at left-handed. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the Play Store, Google has now stuffed Flappy Bird into stock Android. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to play with that. My top score is 4. I suck at this. Till next time, stay with AndroidPIT, check out the app, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what you're most excited to see in Android 5.0, and let us know your thoughts on what you'd like to see next.